am super nervous, okay? I am Sunna of the Angels of Delusion. Big thanks to all you Delulus for joining me on the debut livestream today. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate your support. Where was I? Right. This is the thank you, Odd Fan number 1 for the 1,000 biddies. Thank you so much. And thank you, I Love Cats, for the 50 gifted. I just wanted this debut livestream to also debut my new single. And don't forget, if you hand in fan art, tag it with our hashtag Art of Delusion, yes? Are you guys ready? I really hope I don't mess up the lyrics.
How I've tried, written down the words to say. It is time, I've been waiting 5 days to explain how you make me feel inside. Baby, got it all figured out, wanna do this right. There's no doubt in my mind, baby, you're the one. And tonight, I am going all the way. But when you touch my hair, it all goes away. The things I planned, the things I would say, now I keep rambling on. I sound so cliche. What I am trying to do is say I love you. And all the things that you do. Sounds like a fool, 'cause when you touch my hair, the words goes away. What I am trying to do is say I love you.
Sunna is a physical support and excels at providing a constant and repeated access to Ether Veil, a flat combat attack buff, a stun damage multiplier increase, and a lot of personal damage. Actually, she can provide so many Ether Veils that she can replace and outperform Dialin in Ye Shongguang teams. But does that mean she power creeps Dialin, one of the strongest units in the game, only released a few months ago? Well, let's find out. Sunna features 2 EX specials and her entire game plan is centered around those. Her first EX special costs 70 energy, has a surprisingly high damage and daze multiplier, and when used summons Bubblegum onto the field. Bubblegum is this companion and will become relevant later on. Furthermore, using the skill will grant a state called Angelic Coordination to all agents in the squad for 40 seconds. What exactly this Angelic Coordination is used for we will get to in a bit. Lastly, after using her EX, the heavy attack of this skill will also trigger a quick assist to the next member in the squad. Her second EX special does not cost any energy, can only be used once every time this Angelic Coordination state is entered, and can be activated in 2 ways. Either by simply pressing her EX special while being buffed by Angelic Coordination, or we can also directly chain into it from her first EX special by simply keeping her EX special button pressed. Regardless of how we cast it, however, casting her second EX special will open up Ether Veil Delusion Reprise, and this Ether Veil provides a massive 50 flat combat attack to the team. Yep, this is not a joke, it actually does that. 50 flat combat attack and that's it. This Ether Veil lasts for 40 seconds, and just as it has been the case with Zhao, Sunna cannot extend the duration of this Ether Veil. If entered repeatedly, she will close the previous existing one. Interestingly enough, this ability also has a separate multiplier for teamwork, similar to Collidor, and as seen in the livestream, when paired with Arya, they have a really cute animation together. Lastly, just as with her first EX special, this skill will also trigger a quick assist when the heavy attack hits. Let's talk about what Angelic Coordination and Ether Veil Delusion Reprise actually do, well, outside of providing a one-time access to a second EX special and 50 flat combat attack respectively, that is. While any character is in the Angelic Coordination state, they gain up to 1050 flat combat attack, based on 30% of Sunna's initial attack. Means we are looking at 3500 initial attack to max this buff out. That is the value shown in the stat screen. As per usual, maxing this buff out is a nice to have and not a requirement. The character will not suddenly stop functioning if you only have 3400 attack. And yes, while 3500 seems incredibly steep, her core talent provides her with 21 attack percent, so hitting this number is actually not as difficult as it may seem. But more on that later. Sunna's EX specials Chain Attack and Ultimate, as well as the basic attacks from Bubblegum, again that is this little guy summoned from her EX specials, will apply a debuff called Cat's Gaze for up to 12 seconds, and if Sunna is on field, the duration of it will continuously refresh. When any attack or anomaly character hits an enemy with the Cat's Gaze debuff, the debuff will become more and more angry with each consecutive hit before it then explodes. Upon trigger, it will then deal damage to all enemies on range, with the damage type being of the same attribute as the triggering character. This damage dealt is considered to be dealt by the triggering agent, and the attack multiplier depends on their class. 300% if they are an attack agent, and 480% with a guarantee to crit and increase crit damage if they are an anomaly agent. Unfortunately, the Angry Cat can only be triggered once on the primary target if multiple enemies are affected by it. Means it is slightly worse in AoE scenarios depending on how far spread out the enemies are. Lastly, if an enemy is stunned, the number of attacks required to trigger it is significantly reduced, which is a great segue to talk about how many attacks we actually need. Outside of stun, we require 3 attacks to trigger Cat's Gaze, and during stun we only need 1. Whenever Cat's Gaze is triggered, it will deal 3 separate instances of damage, and each of them can individually critically strike. But here is the catch. Triggering Cat's Gaze will remove the debuff from the enemy. And this is the part where our little pet, Bubblegum, comes into play. When Sunna is off field and there are no enemies with Cat's Gaze on the field, Bubblegum will come in handy, inheriting Sunna's initial attack and attacking the target at the cost of 1 Claw Sharpeners. Which brings us to a unique resource, Claw Sharpeners. It is as per usual indicated right below her HP bar, and she can hold a maximum of 6 of them. Sunna gains 2 Claw Sharpeners whenever any squad member activates an Ether Veil, 1 stack whenever any squad member triggers an attribute anomaly, but at most once every 10 seconds, and 6 stacks upon using her ultimate. I will talk more about this during the Addendums, but for now it is enough to know that if she has stacks, she reapplies the debuff through her pet while she is off field. Sunna also features a 4-part basic attack string, and we will never use this, so we skip it. Her Chain Attack and Ultimate do what we would expect them to do, but both of them will also trigger a Quick Assist upon hitting an enemy with their attack's heavy hit, and her Ultimate will also grant her 6 stacks of Claw Sharpeners as previously mentioned. Additionally, said Ultimate will also restore some HP when said Quick Assist is triggered. Lastly, when paired with an attack agent or a character of the same faction, Sunna will also increase the enemy's stun damage multiplier by 30% for 40 seconds whenever a character inside her Ether Veil hits an enemy, and lastly, she also gains 15 additional energy upon entering the battlefield. Since all of her buffs and also most of her damage are allocated into her core skill, if you do not care about min-maxing her personal damage, simply leveling her core skill is honestly sufficient and you can leave all of her other skills at level 1. But Sunna can frankly contribute quite a lot of damage, and it is non-negligible, so if you want to min-max her, focus on her core, EX special and chain first and foremost, then her assist, and lastly dodge and basics. Frankly, we are better off leaving her dodge at level 1, as we will quite literally never use it, and because her pet's basic attacks do not scale with the skills level, there is no reason to even put a single point into her basics as well. With her kit being covered, let's talk a bit more about Sunna, her Cat's Gaze, and also her buffs. Cat's Gaze fully scales off the triggering agent's stats, which means it does account for all of the usual damage relevant stats. This includes but is not limited to pen ratio, damage bonus, stun damage multipliers, defense multipliers, as well as resistance rates, and it also inherits the agent's respective crit rate and crit damage. Lastly, as already mentioned before, Cat's Gaze damage attribute corresponds to the triggering agent's element. For example, if Evelyn triggers it, Cat's Gaze will deal fire damage. However, Cat's Gaze does not have a damage type. For example, it cannot be classified as an ultimate. And because of that, it will not inherit specific damage bonuses such as ultimate damage bonus. While this is not too important for most characters, some agents, such as for example Soldier 11, who gain a large part of the damage bonus for basic attacks only, will have a somewhat worse synergy here due to this. Lastly, Cat's Gaze also does not inflict any anomaly or daze whatsoever. That being said, the damage dealt by Cat's Gaze is, as already previously mentioned, considered being dealt by the triggering agent. However, the basic attacks of Bubblegum are considered to be an attack from, well, Bubblegum, as well as from Sunna. This means while Cat's Gaze does not help in maintaining Weeping Cradle, Unfettered Game Ball or Kaboom, the basic attacks from Bubblegum themselves do. We will talk more about this during the weapon section. That being said, let's also quickly talk about the buffs she provides to the team and how they compare to other supports, because I think this can be a big point of misunderstanding her value. When played with her own faction or an attack character, she provides 1100 flat combat attack and a 30% stun damage multiplier. Otherwise, without her additional ability, she only provides 1100 flat combat attack. Regardless of the team, however, she will always provide Cat's Gaze additional damage hits, as well as a constant and repeated access to Ether Veil. While in theory at least, Ether Veil is good for, well, most Rupture agents do have a horrible attack scaling. This effectively means she does not work with Rupture agents, and because her buffs are much worse than Yuzua's are, she also cannot replace Yuzua in anomaly teams. Means she is a somewhat-ish niche support. She works extremely well in Yeshongguang teams as a replacement for either Dialin or Zhao, and at least with a little bit of speculation, we can also assume that she will be the best in slot choice for Arya. Outside of these two teams, however, she is primarily a side grade to Astra. So, how can she be a side grade to Astra, even though her buffs are so much worse than Astra's, especially without her additional ability? The answer lies in Cat's Gaze. While Astra does barely enough damage to not be considered healing the enemy, Sunna contributes frankly quite a lot of damage. Not only can we expect around 5 to 8 million personal damage, depending on her weapon and substats of course, but also a lot of Cat's Gaze procs, which are another 5 million damage at minimum, not including boss mechanics or deadly assault buffs. Basically means she makes up for the lack of buffs by contributing much more personal damage than other supports do. This becomes even more evident when we are looking at the team damage distribution, with Sunna making up for a good chunk of the total team damage dealt. That being said, because Sunna's gameplay boils down to press EX every 20-ish seconds, more on that later, she does not really have combos, and a gameplay breakdown would also not really help here, so just know that you press EX every 20-ish seconds, and let's instead talk about her weapons. Sunna has effectively 4 weapon choices: Kaboom the Cannon, as per usual, Weeping Cradle, Unfettered Game Ball, and of course her own signature. Unfettered Game Ball only works against physical weak enemies, and while she can, in theory at least, maintain a good uptime on it due to how Bubblegum's basic attacks work, because Sunna is only really useful in Yeshongguang teams as of right now, who really does not need more crit rate, Unfettered Game Ball is honestly not that great of a choice. Her signature is her best in slot, primarily for energy reasons, and because there's a lot to say about this, we will talk more about this in the Energy on Sunna section in just a bit. Otherwise, both Weeping Cradle and Kaboom work well, again due to how Bubblegum's basic attacks work, so if you don't go for a signature, choose whatever you have, with Weeping Cradle having a slight edge over Kaboom. TLDR being, her signature is not needed regardless of her build, but the energy here is especially important for Yeshongguang, and we will talk more about this in just a bit, as there is quite a lot to say about how valuable energy is for her. Sunna's best in slot choice is a 4-piece Moonlight Lullaby, but if you have a good Astral voice set, unless you plan on playing her with Zhao, it can work as well. As for the 2-piece, however, it depends. For a Yeshongguang team, we want as much energy regeneration as possible, as it allows for more Ether Veils. Means we are looking at a 2-piece Swing Jazz. If you have horrible attack percent substats, a 2-piece Hormone Punk or Astral Voice will do as well, but I personally would recommend choosing Swing Jazz over maxing out her buff. Especially in a Sunna and Zhao team, you will be hitting nearly 6000 attack on Yeshongguang in combat anyway, so the additional 100 attack you get from maxing out her buff has massive diminishing returns. If you plan on playing her with Arya, a 2-piece Shockstar Disco or King of the Summit are likely to be her best in slot due to providing enough days for a 3rd stun window, but again, this is speculation as of right now and also pretty boss dependent, so more on that in the Arya guide. Sunna's best in slot main stats are attack percent in both slot 4 and 5, with either impact in slot 6 if you play her with Arya, or energy regeneration when played in the Yeshongguang team. Again, Arya is speculation as of right now, and I will correct myself in the pinned comment and Arya guide if I have been wrong here. For now, if you have a good impact slot 6 piece, just don't throw it away. Just keep on it. Hold it, right? It's not the worst. Sunna ideally wants up to 3500 initial attack, and that means as for our substats, we want to focus first and foremost on attack percent and flat attack until 3500, then crit rate and crit damage, and lastly flat pen. If you play her in anomaly teams, which effectively just means with Arya, focus on anomaly proficiency over crit values. Since we have now talked quite a bit about energy regeneration on her, let's also finally clarify on why that is. First, there is something very special about Sunna, and it is a first up until now. While every other energy-based character in the entire game has a base energy regeneration of 1.2, Sunna's base energy regeneration is only 1. With literally all of her viable weapon options, again, those being her signature, Weeping Cradle, Game Ball and Kaboom, providing energy regeneration equal to either 60 or 50% respectively for her. That also means we are looking at a minimum energy regeneration of 1.5 in combat if you run Kaboom, 1.6 if you run Cradle, or 2.2 if you run her signature. Adding in the 2-piece ER bonus from Moonlight Lullaby with her EX special having an energy cost of 70, that means she can cast her EX special 4 times if you run either Kaboom, Game Ball or Cradle, and 6 times if you have her signature. If we now also run a 2-piece Swing Jazz and energy regeneration in slot 6, we can get up to 2.5, 2.6 and 3.2 energy regeneration for Kaboom and Game Ball, Cradle and her signature respectively, resulting in 6, again 6 and 8 EX special casts, and hence also 3 or 4 enlightened states respectively for Yeshongguang. Or in other words, building energy regeneration on her will always grant you at least 1 additional enlightened state for Yeshongguang, which basically means it is by far the best build she has. Additionally, because Moonlight Lullaby has an uptime of 25 seconds and because we can activate her 2nd EX special once within 40 seconds after using her 1st EX special, we can simply space out her 2nd EX to every 25 seconds. Which means, regardless of which weapon you run, you will always have a full uptime on both of her Ether Veil and Moonlight Lullaby, so that is something we don't have to worry about. Because her ultimate, regular EX special and 2nd EX special all also trigger a quick assist, Astral Voice can work as well, albeit it is much more annoying to maintain due to its shorter uptime and hence stack management. Also, it is likely that your Zhao is already gonna wear it, so I would highly recommend Moonlight over Astral. Sunna's Mindscapes are pretty good. Her M1 provides a team-wide 21% defense shred, and because Hoyo recently really seems to hate pen ratio and slap defense shred into every single DA buff, this Mindscape will be better than shown here while that persists at least. Because Def Shred gets exponentially better the more we stack it, her M1 is not only very good with the recent, current and also upcoming Deadly Assault buffs, but especially and even more so with Yeshongguang's Mindscape 2. On the other hand, however, both Primordial Nightmare and also the new 2.6 boss as well for that matter, only feature half the defense of regular bosses. Means while this Mindscape is super good versus the likes of Defiler, it also loses a lot of value versus the shill bosses of her respective teams, those being Yeshongguang and Arya. Her M2 increases the damage dealt from her cat's gaze procs massively and also provides a 10% combat attack. Her M3 and M5 exist, and while the damage gain doesn't matter, she also now stuns much faster. Doesn't matter much for YSG, but is pretty likely to be good for Arya. Her M4 is at least not total trash, and her M6 is pretty interesting. Honestly, the actual value you will gain from this Mindscape will heavily depend on your team, how you build her, and how you play her. With her signature, an ER 2-piece and ER in slot 6, you will gain a 50% damage bonus for 16 out of about 22 seconds for her Cat's Gaze procs. But it can also be less if you don't have her signature or build less ER. I calculated this using a lower value, as I would much rather undersell a Mindscape rather than oversell it. Regardless, however, it is a massive damage boost for her personal damage and also allows her to be played as an on-field DPS now, which is honestly pretty cool. Her animations are also way too cute to pass upon by just simply swap cancelling them every time. Because of how valuable energy is on her and because the weapon banner has a 75-25 rather than a 50-50, if you plan on playing her with Ye Xiongguang, I would recommend her weapon over any Mindscape. If you have Ye Xiongguang at Mindscape 2, I would recommend her Mindscape 1 over her signature, but also only if played versus regular defense bosses. So yeah, honestly, a good stopping point is her Mindscape 1 in my opinion. And if unsure what to pull, always pull the signature over any Mindscapes. That's a good rule of thumb usually. As of her release, Sunna has, at least in my opinion, effectively and exactly one team she is very good in, and that is Ye Xiongguang. Yes, she can be used with any other attacker and stunner as well, but she is more of a side grade to Astra in those teams rather than an upgrade. Which honestly is great in my opinion. She has a clearly defined niche within Aether Veil reliant attacker teams as well as the idle team, while still being able to hold her own, but not outclass previous attacker team supports. Unless that unit is Dialin or Zhao within a Ye Xiongguang team. So how does Sunna compare to Dialin and Ye Xiongguang teams? Well, pretty well. Assuming signatures on both, Sunna is approximately 5% better than Dialin and 7% when comparing them without signature. Please note that Ye Xiongguang's best in slot main stats change if you run Sunna over Dialin. As per usual, the differences are pretty negligible, so choose whatever has better substats. As Sunna provides better buffs and more frequent Aether Veils than Zhao does, Ye Xiongguang's new best in slot team would be Dialin and Sunna. But because Dialin is such a highly flexible and also wanted unit by so many other agents, I personally would treat Sunna much more of a Dialin replacement than a Zhao replacement one, while still being able to perform at least evenly, if not better than Dialin. Again, she will also work within any attacker team, and while she will not massively outperform or power creep Astra or even Zhao in this regard, she can keep up with them, which in my opinion is a great way to handle her. And lastly, while speculation for now, she is highly likely to be the best in slot for Arya and the idle team. Pros and cons. At least as of her release, Sunna's biggest selling point is being a replacement for Dialin or Zhao in Ye Xiongguang teams, allowing you to use either Dialin, Astra or Zhao in other teams, as well as probably being the best in slot for the idle faction. She does not need her signature, but it is great for Ye Xiongguang teams specifically, allowing for an additional enlightened state. Her investment is probably the cheapest we have in the game so far, being sufficient by only leveling her core skill. She is extremely simple to play by quite literally only requiring you to press your EX special once every 23-ish seconds with the occasional ultimate if the button glows funny, and her Mindscape 1 is great, even more so for M2 plus Ye Xiongguang. On the other hand, as of right now, she does not have many great teams, and she is much more of a side grade to Astra outside of said Ye Xiongguang teams, which is primarily due to a lot of her power being allocated into her Cat's Gaze damage procs, which rely a lot on her unique resource, and because she primarily gains this unique resource from triggering Aether Veils, she relies a lot on frequent Aether Veils herself. Arguably, this can be a positive or a negative, depending on your viewpoint and account state. She is not a direct power creep to Astra and has a specific niche she excels in, which in my book is a win and how new agents should be handled. Anyway, lastly, Sunna is useless for Rupture and much worse than user for anomaly teams. I like to keep my guides as objective as possible where I can, and I did not find a good place to slot this in, so let's do this at the end. Should you pull for Sunna? Well, join me live over on Twitch when I stream to find out. Okay, jokes aside, I find this question very hard to answer. Sunna is not a bad unit. In fact, she is pretty strong. But she also has a very clearly defined niche, and this niche is in Aether Veil attacker teams. Well, that and her idol faction. As previously explained, she relies a lot on frequent Aether Veils herself, and yes, Lucia and Yatari exist, but again, she sucks in Rupture teams. Technically, she builds a fantastic core with Zhao for attacker teams, but attacker teams really want stun windows. And yes, arguably, she would provide a stun damage multiplier, but playing with Zhao and Sunna means, well, you do not really get any stun windows. So, in my personal opinion, if you are a new player and you do not have many teams, and especially not many supports, or you are someone who wants an upgrade for the Yeshongguang team and hence also free up Dylan or Astra for your other teams, or if you want to play the idol team. In that case, Sunna is a fantastic pull and also definitely worth it. But if you are looking for a generic support who will work in many different teams, Sunna will likely not be a great investment and disappoint you. But also keep in mind, I cannot see into the future. If ZZZ decides that the next upcoming characters are all Aether Veil reliant attackers and of the idol faction, this advice might just age like milk. But in that case, I guess you can always pull for her on her rerun. And with those bell words, we are at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me up until the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment on your thoughts on Sunna, and join the Discord. As previously mentioned, I also stream live over on Twitch, and also a special thanks to my YouTube and Patreon members who make this content possible. If you wish to support me, you will find a link to my Patreon in the description, or click the join button right below this video. And as always, I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Enjoy the showcase. Peace!
I've tried, written down the words to say it is time. I've been waiting 5 days to explain how you make me feel inside. Baby, got it all figured out, wanna do this right. There's no doubt in my mind, baby, you're the one. And tonight, I am going all the way. The way you touch my hair, it all goes away. The things I plan, the things I would say, now I keep rambling on. I sound so cliche. What I am trying to do is say I love you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And all the things that you do. Ooh, ooh. Sounds like a fool, 'cause when you touch my hair, the words goes away. What I am trying to do is say I love you. You don't know how I shiver inside. Doesn't show, but my nerves are inside out. It's because you're not worth less than perfection. Ooh, thought it was in my hands, now I'm all confused. Turning gold into sand, don't know what you do to me. All I know is you can take my breath away. Yeah, 'cause when you touch my hand, it all goes away. The things I plan, the things I would say, now I keep rambling on. I sound so cliche. What I am trying to do is say I love you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And all the things that you do. Ooh, ooh. Sounds like a fool, 'cause when you touch
a faster car. Lay my troubles to rest, blow the smoke through my cigarette. City lights looking fine, and I know this is my time now. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I just wanna feel alive. It's just what I do when I'm out, so try not to hold me down. Feel alive.